Hey there, everyone. So today we have something special. Today I'm going to be showcasing to you guys a very awesome Ronin guide made by Zia, or known as Lord Zia. For those of you that don't know who Zia is basically by far the best Ronin player known to man. And this isn't me gloating about Zia. He is legit the best Ronin player I have ever seen. I don't think I've ever seen any Ronin player that is better than Zia. He is just super awesome. He's made this amazing detailed Ronin guide for everybody to watch. And I wanted to showcase it myself because I think that Zia is truly a remarkably awesome person. He deserves a lot of love for the work he does and the amazingness that he performs as Ronin. So I would love for you guys to just sit down, relax, and watch the guide given before you from Lord Zia. And I do encourage you to check out his YouTube in the description below so that you can go sub to him if you can't. Show him some Blue Ghost love. But without further ado, let's let Lord Zia speak his words of wisdom and give us a really awesome Ronin guide. Lord Zia, take it away.
Ronin is a warrior. He is mobile and he is strong. He is versatile and unique. But it is up to you to bring out these strengths and to turn him from a walking punching bag into a warrior. What is up, guys? My name is Zia and I've been Gen 100 on Ronin since early April. My goal is to teach you guys everything I've learned from maining Ronin since Titanfall 2's launch, so hopefully even the most veteran of you will walk away from this video with at least one new trick up your sleeve. I really do hope you all learned something new. Oh, and a quick disclaimer, to prevent this video from becoming 50 minutes long, I'm going to be splitting it into two parts. Also, for the sake of simplicity, I'm assuming people viewing this play on default controls. If you aren't on default controls, everything I mentioned works the same, just with different buttons. And I'm not going to be going into what each ability does. This is intended for people who have a decent understanding of Ronin. There are some fantastic tutorials on the basics out there, and if you have never played Ronin before, I urge you to watch those and then come back to this video. Those will cover basic mechanics that I assume the people that this video is intended for already know. One more thing before we start, I'm going to briefly mention what I use and why in terms of Titan kits. I use Overcore and Temporal Anomaly almost always. You can get away with using Highlander sometimes. If the enemy players are good at melee boxing, then you shouldn't take Highlander. If your aim is bad, then no amount of cheesy tricks or mechanics will improve your game. Get your aim up by practicing it. I mean literally go into a custom game of attrition and kill grunts with your Titan. I don't mean walk around melee and grunts. I mean dash around corners, arc wave grunts, flick shot grunts, just go to town on them. Spend a few minutes doing this every time you're waiting for your friends to get on. Just slot it in when you can. Hopefully you'll surprise yourself with just how fast your aim can improve if you practice it. Try and flicker your shots unpredictably in between sword blocking when you are shooting at someone who is shooting back. This is done by shooting, then immediately blocking, then shooting as you let go of block. Repeat. The point of this is to mitigate incoming damage while still dealing damage. One more thing about aiming, especially useful against pilots, is the use of pre-aiming your shots. If you know a pilot is in the window or an enemy Titan is around the corner, line up your shot before you dash out from cover. This means that instead of dashing, then aiming, then shooting, you aim, then you dash, then shoot. It just takes out a split second of delay before you shoot. Very useful when dealing against phase-shifting pilots. I wouldn't recommend constantly doing this, just do it if you know for sure an enemy is in a certain spot. Before I even get into any Ronin tech, I need to talk about map knowledge. I'm talking using level geometry to cut off lines of sight without turning to check if they can see you. I'm talking about checking your minimap as much as possible. Map knowledge will make you an immensely better player than someone who doesn't have these skills, not just on Ronin, not just in Titanfall, but in competitive games overall. This will let you do things like accurately shoot through smoke since you can aim with your minimap, or land arc waves through things that block your line of sight completely. Even if you cannot see the enemy Titan marker on your map specifically, you can still read your teammates on the map to tell where they are. Look at your teammate on the minimap. Is he moving around like he's trying to dodge something? Is he standing still as if he's waiting for someone to peek a corner? Read your teammates and you can reason what is going on even when there is a giant wall blocking your vision. Pay attention to the arrows on the map to tell the location of enemies based on where people are aiming. I could make an entire video on this stuff, but those are the basics. Finally, onto some tech. Reload animation cancels. Basically what this allows you to do is pause your reload animation. It takes a bit of practice to get right. To perform this mechanic, wait for the lead wall magazine to fully enter the screen. Then simply use sword block, sword core, arc wave, or throw a melee. Once you have the reload paused, you can throw successions of these attacks in a row, and it will still keep it paused. For example, you can start to reload, pause it with sword block, arc wave, then melee your opponent and start to core. When your core ends, you will continue where you left off and finish the rest of the animation, and have a fresh clip of lead wall ready to go. You will know you've performed it correctly when instead of restarting the entire animation after you finish pausing it, it will instead play the ending portion of the animation, when the magazine could be seen spinning in the lead wall. You can actually dodge damage from rodeos with your phase shift. If you have a good headset, there is an audio cue right before the battery is pulled. If you don't have good audio, you can still dodge it by just learning the timing and getting a feel for when to phase. This is how I do it. This method is a bit trickier since you need to learn two different timings, one for pilots with low profile and one for pilots without it. In LTS, basically everyone uses low profile, so you're pretty safe just assuming that they have low profile. The timing for low profile is about half a second after you see the warning appear on screen. The timing for people who don't use low profile should be practiced more, as this timing is much harder in my opinion. A bit more complex of a mechanic for phase shift is using it to gain a boost of height. Using phase shift will make Ronin kind of jump. You can use this to get on top of things that no other Titan can, besides Northstar. Simply dash off of the initial platform, then phase shift midair. When you phase in the air, you'll be given a boost of height, allowing you to clear the gap. Similar to this is phase boosting / super phasing. To perform a phase boost, you basically need to dash and phase at the same time. It would look something like holding your thumb vertically and pressing down on Y and A while avoiding B and X. This will give you a massive gap closer when used on flat ground or off of a ledge. Comboing phase shift with an attack can shorten your vulnerable windows. The idea is to phase immediately after your attack is launched, whether it is your arc wave, a lead wall shot, or even a melee. For example, you can melee and immediately phase as it connects. This is an extremely safe way to melee when you are doomed. Phase can also be used when you want to execute an enemy Titan, but you are afraid to risk taking ejection damage. So simply dash in for the melee as if you were going for a normal execution. Now right as your melee connects, try to phase shift. If they did not eject, your melee will connect and your phase will not be used. If they do eject, your melee will miss and your phase shift will activate. So regardless of what the enemy does, the best outcome for you will happen. This method is great because it does not rely on your reaction speed, it is all pre-planned. You can also use dashes mid-phase to adjust your final position. This can really bamboozle your opponent. First off, arc wave peak corners faster. By holding down right bumper while behind cover to cut off the animation of pulling up your hands. Then dashing out from cover, then release right bumper and phase back to safety, just barely after letting go of your arc wave. This limits your exposure time and is a fantastic way to poke. Arc waves can be held indefinitely, but you can cancel your arc wave by simply meleeing and simultaneously releasing right bumper during the melee animation. The timing is pretty simple to get the hang of. However, for some reason, it is completely different and way harder when you're in your core. The timing to release right bumper becomes almost exact to when you melee. Weird, I know, but keep that in mind. Now onto some ridiculous stuff. Arc wave can go places that I'm sure the devs never intended. Now since they start from Ronin's chest, then fall, if you are close enough to a wall and looking towards said wall, you can throw arc waves through windows or even onto and over buildings. Utilize the map knowledge tactics I talked about earlier, and these become much easier to land. I'll be releasing a mini-series to showcase map-specific mechanics in the near future. Lastly, be sure to line up your arc waves to hit multiple enemy titans whenever possible. In the case of fighting Northstar players, when you find yourself stuck in a tether, try to line up your arc wave to break both the tether and hit an enemy player. Melees are vital to have a good grasp on as Ronin. Melee boxing is a skill you should really practice. Not only will you improve your core game, but it will make fighting a Ronin in his core so much easier. This is how melee pinning works. When two players both melee each other, whoever starts their melee first will land it, and the other player will not land their melee. The idea behind this is that player 1's melee connects first, which knocks player 2 out of a melee range, so player 2 misses. Now for some reason, this works even if they are pinned against a wall. Try with a friend, walk towards each other, spam melee, one of you will get pinned until he resets the pin. Keep in mind that not all Titans have identical melee speeds. In fact, Ronin's melee is the slowest in the game, so when melee boxing any Titan besides Ronin, the pin will naturally drift in their favor. Keep the pin in your favor by frequently resetting the pin. There are a number of ways to do so. A dash can work, but if they dash after you, they can keep the pin in their favor. The most practical way is to stop meleeing altogether. If you wait to melee, it's quite easy to slide in a melee at the right time, which is right after their melee hits you. Also, utilize melees mid-fight by melee punishing someone who is just holding Vortex Shield constantly. I like to dash in and melee. They usually will drop their shield to try and melee you back, hit them with an arc wave while you dash away. Against Ronins who sword block will never run out, same idea. Just keep punishing them when they try to sword block. No defensive abilities block melees. If you have a high enough sensitivity, you can spin the melee pilots that have just finished rodeoing you. Do this by meleeing right before they damage you, then spinning and looking slightly up. Since rodeoing pilots get kicked off behind your Titan, you will spin and instantly kill them. So to prevent this from becoming a 50-minute long video, I'm splitting into 2 parts. Part 2 covers far more practical advice such as combination moves, movement, dodging, sword core play, and more. Stay tuned, boyos!